since 12:30 a.m., but that's okay because I slept from 6:30 to 12, so I'm well rested. 28 straight hours yesterday of legal superbity. So I went off to little superbity heaven. And yesterday was a incredible moment in radio history. Probably for the first time in the history of radio, a radio board operator working in the morning fell asleep
right
on the job.
Here on the board.
So
with my eyes open.
With his eyes open. He was good. He
tricked you.
Yeah.
But back in the day when Mr. Garrett and I would be doing 9 to midnight.
That's right.
When we really wanted to get it rolling, we played Led Zeppelin. So, ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, we're not going to choose the Bulldog feel-good songs. We're not going to choose songs today from the Spry collection. We're going to Led Zeppelin you all morning long. I made that executive decision on the way in here. At 7:45, we have Chris Monzell from the Hamilton County Commission. And also at 8:15, we've got Greg Hartman from the Hamilton County Commission. And we'll be discussing with them the trials and tribulations and the woes, but not the hoes, of Hamilton County tax situation. Because they have challenges. They got challenges like everybody else. Of course, we'll see how these two fine young men meet those challenges as opposed to the president. Casey Anthony, we just touched on this a little bit last night about her and her apparently getting online and seeing if she could find, it was the Foxfire account to see if, how you can suffocate someone. You know what? That's messed up that the prosecution didn't find that. I mean, totally incredible. And let me tell you who looks like Jack Wagons. That prosecutor wrote a book. He wrote a book. I don't think anybody bought it, but he still wrote a book. It amazes me how prosecutors that lose and lose bad, a la O.J. Simpson's prosecutors, write books. Here's how I suck. Here's how I lost this case I should have won. What the hell are they doing writing a book? If I lost a case, I wouldn't want to write a book about it. This is how I lost this trial. Also, her lawyers look like lying Jack Wagons, and she obviously looks like a trampy Jack Wagon. Of course, we already knew that. Jamie Foxx, he called Obama his Lord and his Savior. Messed up. Can you imagine if somebody said that about George Bush? Oh, my goodness.
First of all, giving honor to God and our Lord and Savior, Barack Obama.
Unbelievable. And ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, coming up, I will have some rants regarding lawyers, regarding Democrats. And here is an historical perspective that I'm going to give. The Middle East and the French Revolution. There is similarities, which I will explain, especially how it relates to America. All right, let's get going, shall we? Is there anything going on in traffic yet, Blondie?
There's nothing going on. Everything looks pretty good so far. No accidents out there.
Well, we have a little bit of, to start your day, and we have his photo up here. We honor him every day. We genuflect as we walk through. Ronald Reagan, from his first inaugural address.
Now, so there will be no misunderstanding. It's not my intention to do away with government. It is rather to make it work. Work with us, not over us. To stand by our side, not ride on our back. Government can and must provide opportunity, not smother it. Foster productivity, not stifle it. If we look to the answer as to why for so many years we achieved so much, prospered as no other people on earth, it was because here in this land we unleashed the energy and individual genius of man to a greater extent than has ever been done before. Freedom and the dignity of the individual have been more available and assured here than in any other place on earth.
How about that perspective of government, which we don't have anymore? Today in history, William Shakespeare married Anne Hathaway. Boy, she's old. I mean, Anne Hathaway, she's so peak. Alfred Nobel, 1895, established his Nobel Prize. You got to like that. Army War College forms in Washington, D.C. Who cares? And in 1962, there was the first test flight of the Boeing 727, and we have the cockpit of the first test flight.
Transmission
of Boeing,
from that cockpit.
From that cockpit in 1962. Hit it.
Roger. That was the first. It was
The first
a little
test
shaky.
It didn't make it. It didn't make it. The first flight of the Boeing 727 in 1962 didn't quite make it. President Gerald Ford. You know what? He was confirmed as vice president in 1973, 92-3. I wonder who the three that voted against him. But here's a little bit of his little speech.
You know, I think this is Ford, but now it says it's only 4 seconds.
I'm a Ford,
Oh, yeah.
not a Lincoln.
Boy, wasn't that the truth. And speaking of Lincoln, I'm going to comment on Lincoln, too. Today's famous birthdays. We've got Urkel. Jaleel White. He was a character. Robin Givens, who took down Mike Tyson when no man could.
Gets out of control.
Liar.
Throwing, screaming.
Does he hit you?
Bubba.
Notice she
He
paused.
shakes. He pushes. He
Bubba Wawa. Enough of Robin
He
Givens. We
swings.
shouldn't have given her any ear.
Who the hell? What happened? I don't even know that story.
She
He
married
just
him.
Beat
She
the hell
took him
out of
for
her.
all the money. Caroline Kennedy is 55. I don't like her anymore. James Avery, 64. And then finally, it was Bruce Lee's birthday today. Empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. If you put water in a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. Wise words
Pretty
from Bruce
deep,
Lee.
Bruce.
I was
It's
just
pretty
going to say, I
deep.
had to meditate on that.
Must
a
have
minute.
been cracked out of his mind when he said that.
Sad to report, we have one military death. Navy Petty Officer First Class Kevin R. Ebert, 32, of Arcata, California, died November 24th while supporting stability operations in Urasakan Province, Afghanistan. He was assigned to an East Coast-based Navy Special Warfare Unit in Virginia Beach, Virginia. God bless Kevin R. Ebert, his family, friends, and community, and may God bless the Marines, the Navy, the Army, the Air Force, the Guard, and the United States of America. So, ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, without further ado, we're going to give you Led Zeppelin all morning long. Partly cloudy. By the way, forecast real quick. Today, partly cloudy. Wednesday, sunny. Thursday, mostly sunny. How do you
I
like
thought we were
that?
supposed to have snow on the
Mostly
ground this
sunny,
morning.
partly cloudy.
I wanted a snow day.
You
I
did?
was hoping for a snow day.
You get no snow days.
Do we get snow days in radio?
Of course we do.
We didn't
Cough,
get
spry.
I know.
Really?
Hey, spry, spin the tunes. We ain't in today.
Spin the tunes, man.
I don't know if the dog would be calling a snow day. I don't know.
He probably puts a plow on the front of
I
that
was
truck
just
and
gonna say,
plows
not with the
parking
truck.
lots.
By the way, you know this is Christmas season. I cannot believe the volume of catalogs from every place on earth we get in the mail at home. And I was thinking, remember how there was a Sears catalog? And that started that whole thing? And then it all went away. Everybody went to the malls and everybody went shopping. Now we are going backwards again to internet catalog shopping.
Well, internet. I
Pretty
can see.
interesting. Well, they're
you
sending
get a
out
lot of
catalogs. Lots of catalogs. And then you order out of the catalog on the internet.
I actually flipped through catalogs this Thanksgiving for the first, because I went shopping that
You
night.
did.
Get some good ideas
That's
in
pretty-
there. You
yeah.
know, found some great things.
I bought 3 gifts for my wife from a catalog.
What were they?
What'd you buy?
She might be listening. I don't wanna
Oh,
tell
that's.
her.
You think she's up right
She
now?
ain't listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, this is great. Yesterday at 8:15, when I played that Lobo song for my wife, she was listening. She never listens.
Shouldn't tell him that.
You talk about brownie points. Good Times, Bad Times by Led Zeppelin, folks, on Class X Radio. Eric Deters, the Bulldog on Class X Radio. Anything going out there on this rainy Tuesday morning?
Well, we do have one accident, Coleraine Avenue, north of West Fork Road, so watch for that if you're heading out. Yeah, I know, Coleraine, but we haven't had one on Coleraine in a while. So that's the first one this week, anyway. The rest of it, not too bad. What's
All right.
going on over there?
We're going to have some fun little history here for you. Dinner guests in medieval England were expected to bring their own knife to the table as hosts didn't provide them. The fork did not appear until the 16th century, and fork and knife pairs did not go into general use until the 17th century. That's pretty cool. Bring your own knife. Uh-oh. How you like this? The conventional sign of virginity in Tudor England was a highly exposed bosom and a sleeve full to the wrists.
What?
Yeah, so if you exposed your boobs, you were considered a virgin.
And had long sleeves.
Absolutely.
Denise! That wouldn't ring true here today.
I don't have anything exposed.
Hey, Sir William came up with a good question for the day. Would you rather be forgotten or hatefully remembered?
Hatefully remember. Hatefully remember.
The negative is better than than nothing at all, huh?
Here we go, folks. Are you ready to laugh? Bob was in trouble. He forgot his wedding anniversary. His wife was really mad. She told him, tomorrow morning, I better find a gift in the driveway that goes from 0 to 206 seconds, and it better be there. Next morning, he got up early, left for work. When his wife woke up, she looked out in the driveway, and sure enough, there was a box gift wrapped in the middle of the driveway. Confused, the wife put on a road, ran out to the driveway, and brought the box back in the house. She opened it and found a brand new bathroom scale.
That's bad.
Bob has been missing since Friday.
I wonder if he just didn't
Did
get
we have
back
that
home?
SNL skit that we missed yesterday? We had a funny SNL skit to share.
Well, it's a little compilation of the. That isn't it.
Huh?
It's actually a compilation of the super fan.
The super fan?
Yeah.
Well, let's hear it. We got to rest in peace today. The lead singer of the Cadillacs died at the age of 75 from What the hell did the Cadillacs do? We got any Cadillacs?
I was going to say, I've never even.
Who the hell is a Cadillac?
It doesn't register.
Boy, Charlie Sheen first gives $100,000 to Lindsay Lohan. He received $250,000 for one day of work on Scary Movie 5. You know what? I think Charlie Sheen is not a handsome guy. I think he's a very untalented actor. I mean, when he went rogue and started doing those things on his own without a script, he was god awful. I mean, I don't get it. Now, by the way, so I think he's funny, because of what he's created of himself, but I don't get it at all.
Hey, you missed the best one before.
What's that?
On the one big egg. Listen how big this egg was. The largest egg ever knowingly laid was from the extinct Aperinus of Madagascar. 9.5 inches wide, 13.5 long, 2.35 gallons. I mean, think of how big that egg. That big of an egg.
You just proved why I didn't want to talk about that.
That egg is probably the size of your head. Seriously, it's a humongous egg.
I can hear the clicks in the radio now. Nobody cares
Everybody
about
cares about the big egg.
Nobody cared about the big egg. That's why I skipped it.
What kind of animal was it from?
Look,
Hey,
this
William,
is why
I
he's
like
a board
that
operator.
sort of stuff,
That's why
William.
he's a board operator.
William,
I
you're
don't
gonna
know.
stop. I'm gonna give you a raise, William, and make $200 more than whatever you're making now.
You don't think Charlie Sheen's a good-looking guy? I mean,
Heck no.
see, now I think he's good-looking. I just don't. He doesn't do anything for me, but he's not a bad-looking guy.
I do not
I have
think
to give him a little bit of credit there.
I do not think. Not at all, man. Don't buy it at all.
Okay.
Liz
I'm a
and,
girl.
Liz and Dick, the Lifetime Lindsay Lohan's film, were about Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton. Hey, premiered at $3.5 million. Not bad.
I watched that with my daughter. It was actually pretty good. I was
Really?
impressed with Lindsay Lohan, and
She's gotten some good reviews.
When they made her up, she looked really good. I mean, she gained some weight. They had a dark wig on her. She actually looked very sophisticated, and she didn't look like Lindsay Lohan, that's for sure.
That's interesting. How about this? This is a great story. A study at Texas Women's University has found that porn stars are more religious, have a higher self-esteem, more positive feelings, more social support, and better sexual satisfaction than most women. The study also revealed they've done more drugs and had more intimate partners than most women as well. No! I That's a crock, because I'm going to tell you something right now.
Basically,
God.
porn stars
To
have
become a
great
porn
lives.
star, you got to be mentally messed up.
Oh, my
And after
gosh.
you realize what you've done, you're like, did I do all of that? Your life is over. Give me a
they've
break.
done more drugs.
not did I
and,
do all that,
had
did I
more
do all
intimate
them?
partners.
Jeez.
What was that last part? Did you what?
Not did I do all that, did I do all them? You know.
City manager Milton
You're sick.
Dohoney
You're
has
sick.
proposed eliminating Cincinnati's police horse patrol. It will save $188,350. With all due respect to the
Good.
horse patrol, what the hell do you need a horse patrol in Cincinnati for?
This ain't the wild, wild west.
No, it's not. Oh my God, that's ridiculous. Horse patrol.
Good for Dohoney.
I agree with that one, Dohoney. What else?
Although it is kind of cool to see the horses in the downtown.
Delta is considering consolidating its private jet service in Cincinnati. Employees from the Kinston, North Carolina will be offered transfer to the airport in Hebron. Hey, more private jets. We like more private jets, don't we? Again, coming up at 7:45,
45.
Chris Monzel, and 8:30, Greg Hartman. I am saving the Hamilton County bit. I am saving it. And by the way, if you didn't know this, cyber sales yesterday for Cyber Monday, they got to have Black Friday, Cyber Monday. What's today? Screwed up freaking Tuesday.
Just Tuesday.
Business at top retailers are up 26%. 26% yesterday. Online purchases. That's pretty good. We ought to start online. I wonder what the sales of Bulldog'sApparel.com were.
Isn't
Up
that
20
all free? Don't you give that all away?
Yeah, that's a problem. Anytime somebody wants a shirt, I give it to them. I mean, I'm like, my God, if they wear this shirt, that's advertising.
Yeah.
Why do I want to sell it to them, I'm just too nice.
Yeah, but you know what? You got to get it out there, and they got to know, and you know what? Eventually, you'll be making money on it.
When we come back, we are going to have sports. We haven't done a New York sports for a while. We ought to do New York sports. Until that time, our second Led Zeppelin selection of the day. And this is what Garrett is every morning, dazed and confused on Class X Radio. Eric Deters, the Bulldog on Class X Radio. Let's get rolling. But before we get rolling, let's slow down with a boring traffic report.
Thank you so much, dog. I'll tell you what. Just had the accident on Coleraine Avenue, north of West Fork Road. There you go. There's your boring traffic report. So anybody that's stuck in that, don't get too bored sitting there.
Thank you, Princess of Carrollton. All right. A good old Sue from the Detroit Lions is not going to be suspended for his low hit on Texan Matt Schaub. You know what? Sue needs to be
A jackwagon.
jackwagon. Absolutely.
He's a jackwagon.
I was just going to say, man, you're going to hit it again.
He always is rated like the dirtiest player by the. Did you see that kick? What did you think?
Dirty.
Intentional?
I was just going to say,
Yeah, it looked like he
Intentional.
swung his leg around and really kind of planted him one right in the giblets.
I was just wondering because you said dirty, and I thought, well, does he smell? No, he just plays dirty.
Plays dirty.
Indiana's number 1 in the AP basketball poll. Duke's number 2. What a joke.
Zim likes that one.
What a joke.
Dukies. Where's UK? They
Phil
fall
Jackson
to.
said his chances of returning to basketball in the NBA are slim to none. We're really happy about that.
Hold on. You forgot my Bearcats, too. I think they're up to like
Bearcats,
17.
ooh, they're the highest they've been forever.
No, since 2004. If you
Also,
recall,
8
we've been
years
number
ago.
one.
So you mean 8 years ago they got as high as 17? UK like stays at number 1 or 2 or 3.
That was in our worst years. And now we're climbing back up to the top. We'll be in the top 10 by the end of the year.
Do you know how bad Dallas is? The Cowboys are so bad they've only won 2 more games than the Eagles, who totally suck. The Eagles are 3-8. The Cowboys are 5-6.
You know what? I didn't even see who ended up winning last night.
Carolina 30-22. I tell you.
The Eagles played well. That this running back that filled in for LaShawn McCoy scored 2 touchdowns.
The Brooklyn Nets beat the Knicks. Jerry Stackhouse is still playing. He's like 49 years old, isn't he? He's an old dude. Let me see. What's going on in basketball? Hey, Indiana plays North Carolina at 9:30 tonight. I have to admit, I'll be rooting for your Hoosiers over at North Carolina. Thank you, dog. Hey, what about Zeller's brother? Who drafted him? Tyler, anybody? Or did he even get drafted?
I think Memphis.
Is he playing NBA? NBA. That's all we got in sports that matters, folks. That's it right there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the American jury.
Cleveland.
He's with Cleveland?
Cavs.
Oh, my God. There is a quote from the movie Gettysburg, which I love. And by the way, I'm going to share. I got lots of books on Lincoln. I got his writings. I got tons of books on Lincoln. And the book that I picked up last night that I was going to share some things with you is Lincoln on Leadership. And, hold it to the camera. Lincoln on Leadership. But let me just share this with you. There is a quote in the movie Gettysburg, which was that movie that was done by Turner, the trilogy. And one of the movies, late at night, a Confederate general comes riding up and then walks over to the fire next to his other Confederate generals. And I don't know if it was Pickett or somebody else, and Jeb Stuart, whoever it was. And one of them says, "You have the ability to trivialize the momentous and complicate the obvious." And I thought to myself, wow, isn't that relevant what I do? Yesterday, late afternoon at 3 o'clock, we commenced a deposition in my law office of my client, Dennis Carter, who was a truck driver for 26 years, a Vietnam veteran hero. And he goes up to a dock to unload, and he couldn't get his door shut, and he got stuck between his trailer and the dock. And he called for help, and somebody heard him yelling and came over and didn't really know what he was doing, but gets in the truck, releases the air brake, trailer runs back, and takes Dennis's leg off.
Oh, man.
Off. He never passed out. He's sitting there with his leg gone. EMTs get there. They pull the truck up. He gets air carried. He almost dies twice. He lives.
Oh, my God.
So from the thigh down, leg gone. So we filed a claim against the company just by virtue of the policy on the tractor trailer that the person that got in the vehicle and operated the vehicle, was negligent. And he was considered, the insurance lawyer was there and two other lawyers were there. And I can tell you that the one lawyer for the insurance company, I don't know, but comes from a decent firm. And to be honest with you, the one lawyer for the trucking company I like. He's a good guy. And the other lawyer I don't know very well, but he isn't a bad guy too. But they spend 2 hours asking questions about, how'd you get your foot stuck? Well, why did you get stuck? Well, if you got it in there, how couldn't you get it out? And they got all these pictures of where the dock was and getting stuck and everything else. And they got pictures of the inside of the truck. And they're asking him all this. And I'm sitting there for 2 hours thinking to myself, complicate the obvious, trivialize the momentous. His freaking leg got amputated when the truck rolled back. Period.
I was just going to say.
That's simple. And I just waited. And usually you don't ask questions of your own client when, you're in a deposition. But I couldn't resist. So when I had my opportunity, I just drove it home. And the insurance company lawyer was asking about things like, do you know who Indiana Insurance is? And the guy said, no. Do you know who Netherlands is? Like my client knows who the hell, what insurance company's involved.
Right.
So I established, they also denied coverage, see. They denied coverage, which is BS. So I said, did you give that guy permission to get in your truck and move it? He said, yes. Did he operate the vehicle by putting in the clutch and taking off the air brake? Yep. You let somebody drive your vehicle, just so you know.
You're responsible.
If you let somebody drive your vehicle, they have permission to drive your vehicle. That policy covers them. It covers them. So I got coverage on that insurance policy, and they were just squirming. You could tell they were hating it because, see, what they want to do is they want to have those big questions unanswered, see. They want to leave that all alone so then they could run to the court and say, see, he didn't say anything about this in his deposition. Then they tried to make it look like he doesn't need any more future medical. I said,
let's see.
What do you take for your amputation? Takes medicine for the phantom pain. He takes medicine for real freaking pain. He's going to be taking that for the rest of his life. And if you if you
Not
got
a loss
if
of
you
your leg
lose
for the rest
if you
of your
lose a
life.
leg for the rest of your life, you're going to have issues with that stub. You're going to have problems with it with your prosthesis.
Well, your whole life is different.
Your left leg is oh my God! And they ask questions about well, what can you not do? What are you?
Come on!
He doesn't have a leg.
I can't walk.
But that's the kind of stuff I deal with.
Do they do that though, so that they look like they're actually working, so they can get paid?
Sometimes I think so.
I mean,
and other times that they're getting paid by the hour, so they ask questions. But see, I'm like get to the point kind of guy.
well, if they go in there and they don't do squat,
Like even when I cross-examine, I to the point.
do they set like a dollar amount? I mean, I know that when people die, there's amounts. Do they have body part amounts?
Workers' comp does. They give you so much. Like, for workers' comp, he got a certain amount of money. That's what you get, and you lose a leg. It ain't much.
I mean, it's like, is a leg worth $20,000? What's a
Worth
leg
more
worth?
than that, 100 grand.
$100,000. Now that's just workers' comp. So if you sue,
150 grand. 150
but it should be worth more than that because
It's gonna be worth more than that because the dog's on the case.
I was gonna say you got
When we-
that
we
loss
kinda
of
got him
limb.
10.
When we come back, we're gonna continue the relating the news to you, and I got some great rants later in the show. Until that time, more Led Zeppelin. Communication Breakdown, which is what we have here on Class X Radio. This is the Bulldog on Class X Radio. I always wondered about the relationship. And I'm going to be the first one, I guess, to publicly say it because no one ever says it. But I think this Mark Kelly and the Gabby Giffords, they have a kind of interesting relationship, I think. I guess you have to be, though, if you're married to an astronaut. Being gone all that time.
Yeah, why?
I don't know how marriages survive. I just don't know. There's something. At first, I thought it was going to be Mark Kelly that's going to be gone for a year, and he's going to stay in space for a year. But it's actually his brother. And I was going to say, man, if that's Mark Kelly, you're going to be away from your wife for a year? What the hell? Anyway, give us a traffic
Well,
report.
people in the military do it. I mean, it's.
I didn't ask you to comment on it. I just wanted to traffic.
Just the
give
traffic,
me
please. We don't
a
need to
break.
know
Well,
your
you know what? You are
commentary.
going to get unwanted comments on occasion. Sorry. Okay. New accident, Madison Road at Mathis Street. That's in.
Taking enough of your guff, Denise.
I'm gonna
Proceed
ground
with caution.
you. You're young enough. I can still do that. Coleraine, Coleraine Avenue, north of West Fork, and then things are slowing down just a little bit on 71, 75. Other than that, not looking too bad out there. Back to you. You're so welcome.
King's College in London's done a study, Garrett, that says smoking rots your brain.
What kind of smoking?
Any kind of smoking. You
Yeah.
smoke, it rots your brain.
Did you ever smoke?
Never. Smoking is bad.
Bad for what? Your brain?
It's just bad.
Bad.
Now,
Why do
here
you
we-
always tell me that, like directed at me, like
I know,
I'm
is he
some
looking
sort of
at
huge
you?
smoker?
I don't know. I thought Tommy Boy was a stoner. I apologize.
He was.
Andrew Cuomo is wants $42 billion in federal funds. I'm going to go ahead and say this once more, folks. Insurance companies insure people's houses for losses, okay? Why do taxpayers have to pay for these people's losses? I don't get it. I'm with John Stossel on this. Now, don't get me wrong. If it was my house, yeah, sure, I'd be there. But that doesn't make it right. That's just me being selfish. It's a bad policy. Bad policy. You agree with me or not?
Yeah. What the hell do you have insurance companies for?
Susan Rice is going to meet with John McCain today, Capitol Hill. They're all being making nice again. And how about this? Jeb Bush met with former staffers on his staff and Romney's campaign. He's going to hold a national summit on education. And he doesn't deny his concern. Now, just picture this, folks, okay? Are you kidding me? We had Bill Clinton run against George Bush 1. We had George Bush 2 follow Clinton. We're going to have Jeb Bush running against Hillary. Good God.
I don't know that. I think the name alone would keep him out of office.
I think so, too. Well, because he speaks, I can tell you this. He speaks Spanish, and he's a lot smarter than his brother. Mm-hmm. He is, but I don't. Yeah, no, I'm not a Jeb Bush fan. Just not. Jay Carney said yesterday that the Social Security is off the table in these spending cuts. Now, you got to ask yourself this question. Why would anything be off the table? Oh, and they bring this up, too. They said they're thinking about, the Republicans and Democrats are thinking about the increased Medicare eligibility.
Do you think
from 65
HLN
to 67?
You think HLN just listens to your
Oh,
show
absolutely.
and then just puts
Fox
whatever
News
we
does
say
And then they
on
just
TV?
follow it.
William and I laugh about it all the time. We are like sometimes a day or 2 days ahead of some of the things that they do on the news. And you have to remember some of these cable stations, including Fox News. They don't do a lot of original reporting.
Oh, hell no.
They cover the story, then they report on it, and they talk about it. But they don't do a lot of original reporting. Yeah, they follow old William and I, baby.
Unbelievable.
But I'm thinking to myself, do you
Yeah, they're
realize
listening and putting it right
do
there.
you realize how absolutely stupid it is not to raise the age of Medicare eligibility and Social Security eligibility up from 65 to, let's say, 70? And you know what? If you started that with people that are 50 years old or 55 years old, so they have more time to plan, it's a no-brainer. It would basically solve all the Medicare problem and solve all the Social Security problem if they just said, okay, for now on, effective immediately, you're not going to get it till you're 70 if you're 50 years old because of the savings that you accumulate. I mean, how is that not – how could Democrats and Republicans not collectively agree on something that simple? You know why? Because they're stupid. That's why. They're stupid. I'm getting fired up. I usually don't get fired up till 7:30. And here's a great point. Somebody Wall Street Journal opinion. You know, everybody's talking about their $16.8 trillion or whatever it is, our debt. That's nothing. When you count the unfunded liabilities of Social Security, Medicare, prescription drug, federal workers' pensions, state workers' pensions, we got like hundreds of millions. We got over $100 trillion in debt problems. People just ignore it, going about their life. All the dumbasses that voted for Barack Obama, they don't care. Hey, that's all I get my check. I don't care. Facts, dude. Debt. What debt? Budget. What's a budget? What? Debt. What debt? Border issue. I don't care about a border issue. I live in Kentucky. I live in Ohio. I don't care about a border issue. What? Israel? Libya blowing up? People die? I don't care about ambassador died. Heck. He's over there. I'm here in Ohio. I don't care. That's the attitude of the Obama voters. They're just like clocked out. I made that list of all the reasons to vote against Barack Obama, you know, and I kept summarizing it over and over again. It's like, I mean, come on, like over hundreds of these reasons, good reasons, one of which, I mean, like downgraded. Our debt gets downgraded for the first time in our country's history. He gets reelected because the people who voted for him, they don't care that our debt was downgraded. Oh, and how about the Democratic senators feeling their oats? They're feeling their oats, and they're like, you know, we're not going to do that, you know. The people have spoken. We won the election. Boom, boom, boom. You won the election from jackwagons who voted for you that don't know jack. I mean, don't know jack. You know, that's another thing that Mitt Romney never did, and you guys heard me say this all the time, and I can't believe he didn't do this. And this would have been right out of the playbook of the Barack Obama, David Axelrod campaign. Is unemployment, this is how stupid our country's gotten. Unemployment, they said, was always really 11.3. But they had announced a number, and it'd be like 8%, and they made it 7.8, you know, right before the election, to get it down under that 8. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, they're saying unemployment's 8%. But real unemployment is 11.3. Well, why in the hell ain't 11.3 the freaking unemployment if it's the real unemployment? I mean, that is messed up, America. That is messed up. There is no rational human being that can support and endorse that. And I watch these other shows, folks. I watch CNN, MSNBC to see what the nitwits are doing. They just want to ignore facts. Juan Williams is the stooge on Fox News. I mean, they just want to ignore facts. You lay something out there real good and factually for them, and they'll say, well, you know, Bush gave us some problems here. Well, you know, Mitt Romney just wasn't a very good candidate, you know. He was a rich guy. Well, you know, the rich has got to pay their fair share. The rich has got to pay their fair share. You're like, what the hell are you talking about? And all these people went and saw Lincoln. All these congressmen. I'm sure Harry Reid sat there and watched Lincoln. Nancy Pelosi sat there and watched Lincoln. And all they did when they walked out of there is they saw it as a race movie. Hot dang, Lincoln gave them the vote. As opposed to thinking deeper, or not even that deep, about what Lincoln was and what he stood for. He was a frugal guy. I tell you right now, Lincoln would not be doing what we're doing. I mean, it's incredible. Sometimes I think I'm the only smart person in America, along with, of course, Bulldog Nation members. All right, here's some Led Zeppelin for you. A whole lot of love, which I need right now. I need a whole lot of love on Class X Radio. This is the Bulldog on Class X Radio, delivering radio superbity to ladies and gentlemen of the American Jury, Bulldog Nation, and Class X Radio listeners. And as you're used to every morning, as I ran on and I report the news and comment on the news and play superb music, we have to take an interruption every once in a while from the blonde woman seated to my left, who Spry says has to give a traffic report every 15 minutes. So go ahead and do your deal.
All right. Couple of accidents. Race Street, just south of Fort Washington Way, so watch for that. Still have the accident in the cleanup stages on Coleraine at West Fork and Madison at Mathis Street. So a couple of problems there. And traffic is slow. It's already slowing down northbound 7175 from Buttermilk on down to the bridge, about 22 minutes there. And 471 heading inbound. So all your normal slow spots. So dealing with that, I won't go through all those because that will put you to sleep, won't it?
Probably.
We don't want you to fall asleep. What are you reading?
Ladies and gentlemen, the American Jury, the movie Lincoln Out is an incredible movie, and everybody that has seen it would echo that. Mike Zimmerman, Bill Cunningham, myself. I need to take my dad to go see Lincoln. But anyway, Team of Rivals, which was written by Doris Goodwin Kearns or Doris Curtins Goodwin or whatever the heck her name is. You know, that movie's based upon the chapter that she wrote relative to the 13th Amendment. But there's been a lot of biographies of Lincoln. He's the most written about man in American history. And there's lots of compilations. One of my favorite books that I have is Lincoln's original writings. Now, of course, we all know about the Gettysburg Address, but his letters and his speeches, his first and second inaugural, you know, better angels of our nature. I mean, it's incredible, his speeches from the Lincoln-Douglas debates. I mean, Abraham Lincoln was self-educated, and his ability to write and the stories that they use in the Lincoln movie, like the one about the compass pointing north. But, you know, sometimes when you got to go to north to your destination, along the way you run into swamps and woods. You got to deviate a little bit to still get to where you're going. It's a great analogy. And this is from the book Lincoln on Leadership by Donald T. Phillips, which focuses on Lincoln's great ability to be a leader. And this was written in a reprimand to a captain, a young officer, who got in a quarrel. And this is what Lincoln wrote. No man resolved to make the most of himself can spare time for personal contention. Still less, he can afford to make all of the consequences, including the vitiating of his temper and the loss of self-control. I wonder how many congressmen or United States senators up there in old Washington can write and use the word vitiate. He continues, yield larger things. This is incredible advice. It's poetic. Yield larger things to which you can show no more than equal right, and yield lesser ones, though clearly your own. Better give your path to a dog than be bitten by him in contesting for the right. Even killing the dog would not cure the bite. Is that not incredible? And everything he writes is like this. Witty and wise. Witty and wise. But you know what's amazing? My dad had this saying about you can't teach judgment, which is really true. Because just like I was telling the folks here in the studio that we need structure for the show, but we also always have to be flexible. And where judgment comes in, for example, if you see the movie, Lincoln lost his temper plenty of times. And you know what? You should keep your self-composure. Yet, there are times to let it rip for good effect and for good purpose. There is times that you need to act a certain way, and yet times that you have to act another way. You know, it's written in the Bible, the book of Proverbs, and of course, the famous song by the Birds, the time, the time for everything. There's time to gather stones, time to throw stones,
change.
But the key is having the judgment to know what to do at what given time. And not everybody has that judgment. Lincoln had it. We haven't had anybody in the White House with it for a long, long freaking time. I'd say since Reagan. It's incredible. Incredible. I don't understand, folks. It gets so frustrating when you have this large of a country, 340 million people, and you have all the universities that we have, and you have all the companies that we have. Why do we not have, leading this country from the White House and in the Senate and in the House, great men and women? Great men and women. I don't understand it. I mean, I feel like I could find enough individuals in the tri-state that would be great to lead the White House and the Senate and the House of Representatives. I just don't get it. And it's so frustrating. And then it's not just brains and knowledge, it's the virtues and it's the work ethic. I mean, come on. I mean, here's another example of so many reasons that why Obama shouldn't have won re-election. Have we ever had a president admit he's lazy? Barack Obama admits he's lazy. Most important job in the world, the guy, we already know he's lazy, but the guy admits he's freaking lazy. And we let him hold the position. I need a dose of Led Zeppelin before I implode, Garrett.
We don't want you to do that.
This is Kashmir on Class X Radio. Eric Deters, the Bulldog on Class X Radio. Does anybody know if there's a Class X Christmas party or
You have
Bulldog Nation Christmas party?
I think it'd be nice of Spry to have us all up one evening for a big dinner, maybe.
Lots of money.
Boozing.
By the way, I told Spry that we have 4 televisions because the big one only has 3, and that because there's 8 phone lines over there, we want 10.
Oh, okay.
Right.
10 phone lines.
We get to work, Spry.
Before we get another boring traffic report, I got a couple philosophical questions to share that come to me in my moments of deep thought. You ever hear these stories, and we all do on the news, where like they say, man, that guy wasn't expected to succeed at anything, and man, he was a loser, but man, now he's famous and he succeeded. All those stories you always hear?
The ultimate underdog success story.
Yeah, but you know what I was thinking about? I heard one the other day, and this went in my mind. You know, the reality of it is, chances are, probabilities-wise, if you are a loser as a kid, you're going to be a loser as an adult. In other words, those are very rare exceptions. You know what I'm saying?
Thank God I was a badass, as a young, I still am, so I'll always be that way.
Still am.
It's just how it works.
And then,
Denise was a raging loser.
And another comment.
And I still am.
is.
Is that what you're saying?
And another thought that I thought of is these old stadiums like Notre Dame and others where you sit on a bench, you have a seat for a bench. Well, when they built those things,
Horrible
everybody was
stadium.
skinny. Now you got people as fat as you and Wiz.
Yeah, I know.
How the heck
It's horrible.
How do you sit on a
Listen to that.
1 foot? You were just up there. How do you sit on a 1 foot seat bench when you weigh 500 pounds?
Well, we have money, so I sit in actually the yellow seats for the
I bet
select few.
they're a lot
But-
more comfortable.
And how does Wiz, with his new job at American Airlines as a flight attendant, get down the aisle?
Hey, same
How
thing
does
at
I
Wiz
want to
get
know
down the
how
aisle?
he wears their little outfits they
Hey,
have to wear.
Nippert Stadium, same freaking way.
By
I
the way,
hate that place.
I'm now
Everybody's
at
like, oh, it's a great
188,
stadium. It's got character.
188. I'm under 199.
Did you lose a pound since
30,
sitting here? You told me you were 189 earlier.
I was
really?
189
You lost-
yesterday.
you lost a
now I've
pound.
lost a pound. I have lost 35 pounds. I'm at 188. So see, when you start losing weight, you realize how fat everybody else is.
God.
No, it's
I love
horrible.
all you fat people in Bulldog Nation.
Yeah.
I love all of you fat people. All my clients who are fat, I love you.
Love us all.
But I'm skinnier than you.
Hey, I hate going to games for that reason.
Underwear
I mean,
model
it's
career on sweat.
not comfortable.
The
Got your
underwear
knees
that
jammed up into the
absorbs odor.
seat behind in front of you.
What?
All right.
Never mind.
All right. How about a traffic report there?
You really want one?
No, but we have to.
Okay. Well, there's a few problems out there anyway. We have a new accident that just popped up on here, and that is on Highway 48 east of Butterworth Road in the Loveland area, so watch for that. Also on 275 eastbound, east of Reed Hartman, there's an accident there. We'll have to look at that. That is on the shoulder, the right shoulder, so it could cause you to slow down just a little bit. And Madison Road at Mathis. And as far as the rest of the traffic goes, it is slow out there, really starting to slow down, especially northbound 71, 75, all your spots on 75, all the typical spots. But there's no other accidents, just that one eastbound 275 at Reed Hartman, so you're going to have some delays there.
What?
Are you reading a book?
No.
The
Wait,
dog's reading.
he's not looking
Don't
at
bother
pictures?
him.
I'm gonna.
I'll take over this show. Let's talk a little football.
Salmon P. Chase was the Secretary of Treasury under Lincoln, and Lincoln finally had enough of him. Chase kept quitting and then coming back again. So finally, Lincoln accepted his resignation, but then he appointed him to the United States Supreme Court, which is funny because in 1864, when he was sworn in for his second term, Chase actually swore him in. This is what he had to say about Chase. Chase is a very able man. He is a very ambitious man. By the way, that's what Chase Law School is
I just
named
was
after.
going to ask you
He's a
that.
very ambitious man, and I think on the subject of the presidency, a little insane. He has not always behaved very well lately, and people say to me, now is the time to crush him out. Well, I'm not in favor of crushing anybody out. If there's anything that a man can do and do it well, I say let him do it. Give him a chance. That's freaking noble, isn't it? I love Lincoln. I'm going to live the rest of my life emulating Lincoln.
Okay.
While the rest of you jackwagons are going to emulate some rap star.
Yeah, 50 Cent.
Jeez.
I want to be a
Pete.
baller like 50.
Be a baller like 50. Unbelievable.
That's a pretty cool saying, though.
Now, remember I told you about me driving with my, my windshield frozen over and looking through a hole? I will never do that again.
Completely dangerous.
And this absolutely gives me goosebumps. I mean, this is sad. There was an accident where a kid was walking across the street and a bus hit him, and the video camera showed that he hadn't properly defrosted his windshield,
Oh, man.
and he couldn't see. I'm thinking, man, I ain't gonna let that happen to me again.
How does a bus not do that? You would think that there's somebody at the
Well,
bus
it's a
thing that
different
goes
standard.
out and starts the
It is true.
buses.
It is true. It's a different standard when it's you. You know, I mean, when it's you versus just somebody else. Hey, remember Evelyn? That was in here.
Yeah.
The Hispanic. We now have Spanish assistants written in Spanish. How cool is that? Pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool. Forest Grove
Press
paid
two.
$43,000 to settle a lawsuit from a woman and her adult daughter who were pulled over at gunpoint and searched by police who thought their car was driven by gang members. They had little kids in there. They pulled over their guys. You know, can you imagine little kids? Whoa, what's going on, Mommy? I know for a fact that when kids cry, wives get away with traffic tickets.
Really?
Oh, yeah. They sure do. The little stinkers start bawling. You've never done that with your kids? They start crying, kids.
No. I don't know. I know my ex at one time was singing some kind of gorilla song, and he ran a stoplight, and the cop pulled him over, and the kids were in the car, and they were little, and the cop's like, man, you just ran the stoplight. He goes, I'm sorry. He said, I was sitting there, and I was singing this song, and the kids he turned it up, and they started singing it, so Hotshot of a ticket.
I don't know who tells worse stories, you or Garrett.
Her. I don't tell bad stories. Mine have a purpose. They're to the point.
Ladies and gentlemen,
and
the
they're
American
always
jury,
intriguing.
I just want you to know
You
that
can let us know
when we
who tells
come
the
back,
worst
stories are
when we come back
horrible.
at 7:35, I'm going to have a great analogy, and you're not going to hear this. You're not going to hear this anywhere in the country because nobody in Washington probably even knows what the hell the French Revolution was. But I am going to explain how stupid American policy is in the Middle East using the French Revolution. It's brilliant. Of course, I'm just a farm boy. We've had this talk about middle class. We don't want to hurt the middle class. Well, guess what the Democrats and the Republicans are both so eager to get rid of? The home mortgage deduction.
I can't believe that.
Who gets taxed more when that happens? Everybody. And you know what's amazing about these freaking jackwagons? And I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of like Tag Romney. I like to come out of the freaking crowd and punch somebody. Get this, folks. Everybody knows that we could have a nice, simple, flat income tax, a little flat sales tax, national sales tax. The numbers would be incredibly low. Based upon what we know is the income from the history of the IRS, including last year, and how much income was paid, and what income's not being paid, and what we know about the GDP, that's gross domestic product for those stupid asses out there. The bottom line is guess what? We know what we could tax on a flat sales tax and a flat income tax to generate the $3.8 trillion we need under this bloated federal government to balance the budget, and the economy would roar. Nice, quick, simple. But no! They're all up in Washington right now, squabbling over what little things are they going to take out and drop and mess around with this and mess around with this and fool around this. And in the end, we're stuck with the same old crap that we always had. Jeez, old Pete. How about some Led Zeppelin, please? We come back. French Revolution, Middle East, American Revolution. From the Bulldog. This is Black Dog on Class X. Eric Deters, the Bulldog on Class X Radio. Before I give you a brilliant political science analysis, I want to remind everybody that we got Chris Monzel coming up at 7:45, Greg Hartman at 8:45.
8:30.
8:30.
Yeah.
2 brilliant local statesmen, and until then, I got to get a traffic report.
Well, unfortunately, in Loveland, we had an earlier accident on Highway 48 east of Butterworth Road. They have closed that now. So that area is closed, and that. So if you're traveling through there, expect some delays. Just avoid that if you can there this morning. Also, northbound 7175, there's an accident right around Dixie Highway. That's causing some problems. It's on the shoulder, but that always slows everybody down. So if you're heading into downtown, that traffic is already backed up to 275, looking at about a 30-minute delay. Eastbound 275 east of Reed Hartman, there's an accident there on the right shoulder, so you're slow in that area as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, my dad always said you can't teach judgment. Now, what he means by that is some people got it, some don't. And it's a compilation of your life, compilation of your education, to where you're able to gather facts and make a decision. For example, judges do that every day, but everyone else does it every day too. No matter who you are gathering information and you are making judgment calls constantly. And some people do that better than others. There's also a maxim about that if you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. Part of politics, part of governing, is to assess historical situations and then be able to say to yourself, okay, what's going to work in this situation? It's very important. However, every time and circumstance, on the other hand, is very different, very much so. So, for example, when there are people that say, well, Reagan did this, or we did this under Clinton, well, it may or may not be relevant to today's events. Now, what I want to comment on is what's going on in the Middle East, which is incredible. And I begin my story and my analysis with the American Revolution. The American Revolution was unique on any level, more than any reason, for the fact that it was based upon a philosophy and a concept that man was going to govern themselves and they were going to be free to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We were going to be a democratic republic. And it was, in fact, a successful departure from a monarchy. During the time of monarchy, there were kings and queens sitting on the thrones throughout Europe and Russia, and yet we had this experiment that we called America. Now, you may have forgotten in your history books that when we declared our independence in 1776 and we founded our government after the Articles of Confederation failed in 1787, we created our Constitution, that what happened in France in 1789, called the French Revolution, was the idea that someone in France got that said, hey, wait a minute, man, if America can do it, we can do it too. Sure we can. Now, it may shock you, ladies and gentlemen of the American jury, that our founding fathers, Washington, Adams, Hamilton, Patrick Henry, Benjamin Franklin, so forth and so on, weren't very excited about the French Revolution. Thomas Paine, who felt like he wasn't treated properly here and hated Washington, he decided to go over there and get involved. He ended up in prison, and only by a quirk of fate did he survive the guillotine. Thomas Jefferson, on the other hand, he loved it. Here we go again. Let's have a revolution and let's make it happen again. Well, if you studied your history, the French Revolution turned on itself. They started cutting each other's heads off. That's another amazing thing about the American Revolution is it did not turn against itself. There was some times there when Washington, towards the end, had to hold his men together. The effect of taking off his spectacles and giving his speech, tears coming down his soldiers' eyes. But the French Revolution led to, guess what? Napoleon! That's what it led to. Now, the reason why I use the American Revolution and the French Revolution as an example is the cockamamie freaking idea that somebody who thinks they're smart, I went to Columbia, I went to Harvard, and I also a community organizer, and I got these smart people around me, and I got all these secretaries of states here, and Hillary Clinton, she's pretty smart, and Joe Biden, I picked Joe as vice president because, he knows his foreign affairs. Let me tell you something, folks. In the Middle East, before George Bush, the second worst president in the history of the country, right after Barack Obama, the Middle East was what we like to call in political science stable. Stable is good. When it's not your country, you want all your enemies and all your not so, you want them stable. Stable is good. George Bush began a policy of messing up the entire stability of the Middle East, and Barack Obama picked up that mantle and continued on. Let's examine it in about 1 minute. The Bulldog will sum it all up. We destabilized Iraq by getting rid of Saddam Hussein, and the reality of it is, as soon as we freaking leave, and we've already left a lot, it's going to be bad. Afghanistan is a disaster. When we came, it's going to be a bigger disaster because all they're going to do is take our bases and our weapons. Meanwhile, you look around the Middle East. Let me see. Egypt. We thought that was a good idea. Now we have a dictator running Egypt. Libya? Yeah, let's get rid of Gaddafi. And what do we have there now? Al-Qaeda taking over the country, killing our ambassador. We don't do squat. In Syria, blood in the streets. Iran, they're getting a nuclear weapon. I mean, it's chaos. Now, who's stable? Well, there's a king in Saudi Arabia, and right now they're stable. There's a king in Jordan right now, and they're stable. They also happen to be our allies. But what happened in these nitwits' heads is they think, also the Eastern European nations that broke away from Russia, how beautiful and how wonderful that was. Well, guess what, folks? They wanted it. America thought that they could go in the Middle East and say, let's give them some democracy, which doesn't work. So what we have done, what our stupid presidents and administrations have done, has destabilized a region all under the false premise and belief they can be like us. They can have Democrat republics. They can be democracies and free people and da-da-da-da-da. Guess what, folks? You got to have the judgment to know what's going to work. Oh, I can't believe I left out what's going on in the Gaza Strip and Palestinian. We got Israel and Palestine throwing bombs at each other. Can't believe I forgot that one. What works in one situation doesn't necessarily work in another. And the jackwagon idea, our presidential leaders of the last 12 who said, let's give them democracy. Well, they're jackwagons. So with that, we will come back with Chris Monzel, but not before we follow up that superb analysis with some Led Zeppelin, All of My Love, on Class X Radio. This is the Bulldog on Class X Radio. Denise, give us a real quick traffic report there.
Well, we still have the accident that has Highway 48 in Loveland that is closed east of Butterworth Road. Also an accident on Ronald Reagan, just eastbound right at Galbraith. So there's some problems there. Northbound 7175 at Dixie. You're backed up to 275. Southbound 71 at 275. You have an accident there on the left shoulder, and that's blocked. So those are all new accidents that are causing some problems on the roadways, along with some slow traffic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen of the American jury, there was a budget passed yesterday by Hamilton County that was approved by the commissioners, and it includes 150 layoffs for county employees due to $15 million in cuts. And ladies and gentlemen of the American jury, Edmund Burke, who is considered the founder of political philosophy, has that often used quote that everyone likes to use, which is, all that is necessary for evil to triumph is good men do nothing. That's all that is necessary, is good men do nothing. And I want you to know that I kind of checked out in the old political world for a while until I started doing radio again. When I started doing radio again, you know, I kind of started paying deeper attention to what was going on in the world. And that was a mistake to do. And the reason why it was a mistake to do is because I'd have a lot to offer in, you know, fighting the battles. And we're very fortunate in local government here in Hamilton County to have some good men that Edmund Burke referenced, and one of them is Chris Monzel. Chris Monzel, welcome to Class X Radio, buddy.
Hey, thank you very much for having me on, Bulldog. Appreciate it.
I want you to give the members of Bulldog Nation out there in Class X Radio and the American jury, why don't you just tell them the problem that you face as a Hamilton County commissioner on behalf of the taxpayers, and what did you do yesterday to try to tackle that problem?
Well, basically, it's what most governments are facing right now, and that's where the tax revenue that we're receiving is not matching what the budget for the expenses of the run government are. So like any small business owner, like any family right now, what you have to do is you can't spend what you know, more than you take in. And so yesterday we were looking at our budget for the upcoming year, and we've been hit, just like everybody else, with the decrease in property values. So our property tax collection has gone down. You know, with the economy, the sales taxes have gone down. You know, not to mention with the cuts from state government, our local government funding has gone down. So the amount of money that Hamilton County is collecting is decreased to the point where it's at the lowest level in the last decade. And what we had to do is come up with a budget that can spend just as much as you take in, which is roughly next year going to be about $192 million. And so we had to make some cuts across the board. But number one priority, though, was to make sure that public safety was not harmed. So the sheriff, the court system, the jail, you know, that was all made sure that we kept that as, you know, there's a little cuts here and there, but it wasn't draconian or drastic that would impact public safety at all, because that's the number one priority that we believe, you know, government stands for, is to make sure that we keep people safe.
Are you a lawyer?
I am not. I'm an engineer.
You're an engineer. Well, God, you're smarter than a lawyer then. I respect doctors and engineers. I sucked in math. But I want to tell you something. I'm glad that you're an engineer. I want to tell you something, Chris. One of the things that people don't realize is if the court system and law enforcement and everything else, I mean, it's anarchy. I mean, we cannot slow that. I mean, it is so darn important. But, you know, you said on Channel 9 yesterday, I'm reading the quote, that you can only spend what you take in. We can't print our own money like Washington. We can't go into debt. We have to balance our budget every year by law, and we're going to do that. You know, you are representative of what's going on all around America, where unlike Washington that, you know, can print their own money, you have to make the tough decisions, which they're not capable of doing in Washington. And this lack of revenue that's coming in, I always crack up, Chris. You know how they always shoot at Reagan with his quote-unquote trickle-down economics. I say, well, you know what? To prove trickle-down economics works, look at the reverse. When things get bad, boy, it trickles down, doesn't it? Or it trickles up, however you want to look at it. And the reality of it is when the economy's bad, there's less revenue for every government, local, state, national, and otherwise. And what's the percentage of decrease of revenue for Hamilton County?
For this upcoming year, our revenue decrease, overall, we're looking at a almost 10% decrease.
Wow.
In our budget for next year. It's about 7%, a little over 7%.
That's a pretty big decrease in revenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
and if you look at it, with the housing crisis, so the property values,
right,
decreased dramatically over the past several years. Not to mention with the economy, the sales tax is pretty much flat. There was a little bump, but we're projecting that's not going to increase for next year. So we're trying to be conservative in our numbers because we don't want to go out there and say, hey, we're going to have an extra $5-10 million, and then you don't, and then you're kind of hating it at the end of the year because you got to cut. You got to make sure because by law we have to balance our budget.
Where'd you find
different than Washington? We have to balance it every year by the end of the year.
Where'd you find those 150? Where are they coming from?
The 150
layoffs.
Oh, well, it's up to the individual department heads.
There you
the
go.
Other elected officials.
There you go.
The sheriff, the prosecutor, the clerk of courts, all those different elected officials, they're the ones that determine how they want to spend that money. And if they can figure out a way to keep their, employees and be able to make the budget, that's great.
Right.
But if not, they'll have to be layoffs. But we don't know what departments or how many actually until they go through their budgeting process next.
Well, I think that Joe Deters, guys, is making enough money now that he's doing private practice. He doesn't need a prosecutor's salary, and I'm going to tell him that. I got to make sure Willie tells him that too, Chris. Now, what about the stadium? Everybody, this is always in the news. When the Hamilton County budget comes up, the stadium always comes up. How did that fit in the equation?
Well, we haven't tackled that one yet. We got to get through this one first, our general fund, basically the operating budget. We will tackle that one next week. We have to have something set regarding the property tax rollback by December 5th. That's when Dusty Rhodes, gave us a deadline to send out the tax bills. So we will tackle that one, which is looking, we just found out last week that there could be a potential $7 million shortfall in that stadium fund. So we have to figure out, different ways to tackle that problem.
I'm one of these people because I'm an anti-tax person, but you know what? When I hear one of your cohorts, Greg Hartman, and somebody talk about like a 0.5% increase in the sales tax, I hate to say this as a conservative, not a tax guy, that seems easy for me. I mean, and I don't know what you might disagree with that, so I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No.
But it seems to me, a 0.5% increase on sales tax.
To go out there and increase taxes. But I don't want to do that. That's just the kind of knee-jerk response to folks of saying, it's really not that much. For one, the property tax rollback was a promise to the voters of Hamilton County that when they voted for that sales tax increase, they were going to keep that.
Right.
And to take that away from them is breaking a promise to the people, which I totally oppose.
Right.
So then they say, well, what about a sales tax? A sales tax is a little bit more fair because, 60% or more of the folks that are paying sales tax don't even live in Hamilton County, right? They're in Kentucky, Westchester, wherever, Mason. So it's like, well, that's a little bit fair. True, but at the same time, is that the one, do we just want to go with that easy answer of just raising that 0.25%, or 0.5 cent just because it's the easiest thing to do? To me, I like to challenge ourselves, try and figure out other ways to solve the problem instead of just putting it back on, the taxpayers of Hamilton County who've already paid once for this stadium. Now you're asking them to pay twice.
Well, Chris Monzell, I want to thank you for coming on. I got to roll. I got to play some Zeppelin. But I want to tell you something, Chris Monzell. We need more engineers in public service.
Well, thank you.
God bless you. Chris
right,
Monzell, you know what they ought to do? Hartman and Monzell ought to just start saying, well, this Bush did this. Well, no, it wouldn't be Bush. It was the other county commissioners that did this. Just blame it on somebody else. Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, that was great. Chris Monzell, thank you. This is Ramble On Class X Radio. This This is the Bulldog, Eric Deters on Class X Radio. I want to thank Chris Monzel for coming on with us, and we got Greg Hartman coming up at 8:30. And until then, I will rap with you with my radio superbity. Denise Johnson, will you please give us a traffic report?
I will. We have some accidents out there and one road closure, and that is in Loveland. That is closed on Highway 48 east of Butterworth Road due to an earlier accident. They shut that down. Also an accident on Ronald Reagan. If you're heading eastbound, that's at Galbraith Road, so you've got a problem there and some slow traffic on Ronald Reagan, so heading towards 75. 7175 northbound. That accident is around Dixie Highway, and you're backed up to 275, looking at about 28 minutes is the travel time from 275 to the bridge. Yes, I said 28 minutes. Southbound 71 at 275, there's an accident there. It's on the left shoulder, so that's got you slow as well. Stay to the right, getting through there. You're backed up to Fields Erdel.
All right, thank you very much. I crack up that if you remember what went down in Benghazi and in Libya, remember? We lost 4 men, right? Right. Did you see or hear anybody come running from the State Department or the Secretary of State? Anybody going over to Libya? No. They claim they sent the FBI, but it was a little tough. So what happens? We have Palestine throwing bombs on Israel. They dispatch Hillary Clinton. And the Muslim Brotherhood, Morsi, head of Egypt, suspends everything, and they're going to talk to them.
Hey,
They're going to talk to them. It's a joke.
Did you hear what that Thomas Rick guy, the award-winning journalist, said on Fox News the other day about that?
No, what did he say?
We got a clip of it. You got to hear this jackwagon here. Hold on a second.
Senator John McCain has said in the past that he would block any attempt to nominate Susan Rice to become Secretary of State. She's currently the UN ambassador. He seems to be backing away from that. What do you make of it?
I think that Benghazi generally was hyped by this network especially, and that now that the campaign is over, I think he's backing off a little bit. They're not going to stop Susan Rice from being Secretary of State.
It was
when you have 4 people dead, including the first UN ambassador, U.S. ambassador in more than 30 years, how do you call that hype?
Good job, John.
How many security contractors died in Iraq, do you know?
I don't.
No, nobody does, because nobody cared. We know that several hundred, but there was never an official count done of security contractors done in Iraq. So when I see this focus on what was essentially a small firefight, I think, number one, I've covered a lot of firefights. It's impossible to figure out what happens in them sometimes. And second, I think that the emphasis on Benghazi has been extremely political, partly because
it was all
videotaped. The wing of the Republican Party.
All right,
you missed the last part. He's like,
thanks very much. For
partly because
You're
Fox News is a wing of the Republican Party, and he ended the interview after 90.
Man,
can I borrow this book?
That's enough. Yeah, you can. Promise bring it back.
No,
you got to give me the song that you got on there.
I don't know.
See how okay, you don't have the next song ready. See how knowledge spreads. See how I'm rubbing off on Garrett. By the way, Garrett, not only do they show leadership secrets of Abraham Lincoln, but they will share with you some history behind his decisions. I mean, you learn some history as well as some great commentary. You know, I made a joke about
pictures in here.
No, sorry.
Oh.
I made a joke with Chris Monzel about being an engineer, but I think there needs to be. There's a United States senator now from Wisconsin. I think his name is Tim Johnson, and he's an engineer, accountant, and has a business. And I'm being honest with you, folks. The lawyers have messed up this country. If you could take one group and say, okay, if we're going to do it by profession, what profession messed up this country? It's attorneys. And let me explain. And I always crack up that they take shots at us plaintiff attorneys. We're freaking harmless. The lawyers that have screwed up the country are the lawyers in Washington that work in government, who write the regulations, and then you got their corporate lawyer pals representing the big companies that because they write these regulations, they get paid to help the corporations write, comply with those regulations so it generates more work. And everybody always forgets that there's more lawsuits filed between businesses than there are between people in businesses. People always forget that. Businesses sue the hell out of each other way more than little Johnny and little Jane sue a hospital, a cop, or somebody that ran over them with a truck. But it is, and they bill their time. They're so anal. I mean, these law firms that bill. I mean, that's what it is. They get a call, let's bill. and they just create. See, and think about it. Every state legislature filled with lawyers. So you got state laws. You got local laws. Every time a new law is passed, another freedom's taken away. And I'm not talking about criminal justice. And by the way, those should be simpler. And not everything should be criminal. There's a movement across this country that, anything and everything, let's make it a crime. Instead of let's saying, okay, that's not a crime. Let's criminalize everything. It's just wrong. It's wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, we now give you the second greatest song by Led Zeppelin. The last is on its way on Class X Radio. This is the Bulldog on Class X Radio. How do you like that, folks? Stairway to Heaven in the morning. But we have the greatest Led Zeppelin of all time coming up next. Until then, how about a traffic report, Blondie?
It's just been a Led Zeppelin morning. You know what? They have cleared several of the accidents as far as northbound 71, 75. That's gone. Ronald Reagan's gone. You're still a little slow there. Southbound 71, it's looking better there. That accident was at 275. And they have reopened and cleared the area there on Highway 48 in Loveland, just east of Butterworth. So things are improving out there. There is an accident at Madison and Grandin Road. So watch for that. And also Ray Street. They still have this one posted south of Fort Washington Way. But other than that, just slow traffic around the tri-state.
All right. This is funny. Somebody just said, did you just cut off part of this? It was pretty close to the whole darn song. Come on, folks. We got some breaks we got to deal with around here. Got to cut me a little bit of slack. Jeez.
They just wanted to hear the rest of it. That's all it was.
Well, Garrett, is there anything good going on sports on Tuesday night?
Indiana, North Carolina, about all I can think of.
That's
no
not
NFL.
important.
Yeah. Tuesday and Wednesdays are slow because
I'm
there's
just
no
teasing.
NFL.
I'm getting a lot of Hoosier fans. And I was thinking, Class X Radio hits there over in Hoosierville pretty good. So I want everybody to know I like Hoosier fans. And I like
Whoville.
I like Indiana. I love Indiana. I love Ohio, and I love Kentucky. The only state I don't like, I'm just teasing. I love all the states. Is there a particular state you don't like? I can tell you this.
Texas.
I've been to California a couple of times. I would not want to live in California.
I love California.
Yeah, you're like an West Coast guy.
I would
I'm an East
love
Coast
to live out there.
Midwest guy. See, I could live in New York, but I couldn't live in L.A.
Oh, I would love to live in L.A.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to. I want to move out there as soon as I pay off my car.
We'll see what happens here, dude. Maybe we'll do our national show from Los Angeles, the city of angels.
I might have to call in each more. I might have to dial in on the old ISDN line.
When I was at the other radio station, we had this friend of mine had this hot cousin, and he wanted her to call, or I talked to her about her calling into the show, like in the morning to give an LA report. The only problem is they're 3 hours behind. So like to call at 8 o'clock, they got to give it 5 o'clock in the morning just to call in a show.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen, was it?
And they weren't sufficiently dedicated as much as I was. By the way, John Adams wrote all the time about
Quincy Adams.
Yeah, but they wrote all the time about how important it was that we had to pay attention and we had to be smart. Okay? A democratic republic doesn't work when you got jackwagons. And we were reminded this morning of a great quote from Don White. I got to give it up to Chuck because Chuck sent me the text message to remind me. Ron White. Is it Ron White, the comedian?
Ron White, big hillbilly.
Okay, yeah. He's yawning again. Way to yawn in the microphone there, Garrett.
I didn't yawn, though. I was just calling him a hillbilly.
No, you yawned before you called him a hillbilly. So let's hear this from Ron White.
You can't fix stupid.
And that's true.
Stupid.
You cannot fix stupid. That is wisdom. That is witty and wise. Stupid is stupid.
You can't fix stupid.
And stupid elected Barack Obama.
You can't fix stupid.
I mean, let me give you an example, okay? My daughter, you ever heard that phrase, knows enough to be dangerous? My little second-year law student daughter, who's liberal, she doesn't have a clue about the budget, the debt. She doesn't have a clue. It's all about, well, Barack Obama's going to, whatever,
Gay
women
marriage.
issues, gay marriage, da-da-da-da-da.
Pay for my condoms.
I mean, just...
my lady condoms.
She doesn't have sex.
Well, not her
Stop.
in particular,
Oh.
Jeez, why'd you have to bring that up?
She's single.
Yes.
She's single.
How old are you?
They're old enough.
Producer.
24.
You know what?
She's
24?
22.
She's 22.
Oh,
She's got a boyfriend, though, named Cooper Bowen.
Ugh.
He's a Louvillian. I made that up, a
A
Louvillian.
Louvillian.
A Louvillian.
Louisville.
You heard it first right here, a Louvillian.
Louisville.
But anyway, yeah, she's dates him.
Tell her I'm
also.
from Anderson. That oughta.
Okay.
Yeah, she's up here. Is
Hope
he
Cooper's
going to
not-
school up
hope
here?
Cooper's not listening.
Yeah, you
Although
better
I fixed up Blondie with Vitamin Man.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Denise,
Princess-
Aren't you Vitamin Man? I thought you called him
Oh, excuse
Bimbo
me,
Man.
Bimbo Man.
Yeah.
Good correction. I'm Vitamin Man. He's Bimbo Man.
Yeah,
You know what?
okay.
Should we get a slump update, Denise? What's the latest on
Yeah, go
your...
ahead and get a slump. I don't have any material for the next 2 minutes. A pool?
I know
I
I'm
don't have
here
a pool.
for my sex appeal. I get that. And
Okay.
That's what I'm
Then
paid for.
why are you pretending there's
For
no...
the most part.
Why would I be in a slump? Come on. There we go.
Play Tommy Down by the River.
I don't know.
He just needs
don't
to
we have-
say
don't we
it.
have- don't we have
You
Tommy-
just need to say it.
No, I want to hear the real guy, not the imitation.
We
Don't we have
may
the
not,
van down by the river? You don't
We
have
got a
it?
little Farley, but
Everybody
not
on? Good.
Oh, yeah, we got it.
And enjoy the greatest Led Zeppelin of all time, The Immigrant Song on Class X Radio. On Class X Radio, how about the second to last traffic report?
The second to last. Well, things are clearing up out there, so that's definitely good news. We have the accident at Madison and Grandin. Everything else is kind of cleared out of the way. You still have some slow traffic around the tri-state, especially Slate. I can't even talk. 71, 75, you're still slow there. But everything else
Spit it out.
is looking a little bit better. Yeah, I could spit it out kind of like you. Don't spit. You got a mouthful of what? M&Ms? What you got a mouthful of there, Garrett?
M&M's.
Oh, my goodness. Jill Kelly has lost her title as honorary consul from Korea to U.S. Korea.
Ugh.
I'm going to be an honorary consul from Bangladesh. Ridiculous. Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, let me see. I commented about how our political leaders don't understand history, have a lack of judgment, that they're stupid, that they don't get it. They complicate the obvious, trivialize the momentous. They go and they watch Lincoln, but they don't adopt Lincoln. It's amazing. And Lincoln's a transcendent figure in the sense that the Republicans embrace Lincoln. You have your Lincoln Day dinners because he was the first Republican elected president. And then you have a situation where the Democrats kind of embraced him because he freed the slaves. And Barack Obama's been a big Lincoln guy. But I don't get it. Joining us now is Greg Hartman from the Hamilton County Commissioner. Greg Hartman, it's great to have you.
Good to be with you.
We had Chris Monzel on before, and we discussed this a little bit more about relative to the budget and all the problems that you had. And I would just like to give you to give us your perspective, Greg, on what you guys were dealing with and how you're dealing with it. But even more so, what's in the future? In other words, what are the budgetary problems that you've got or going to have in the future?
Well, I mean, the county challenges, Eric, are a
they're
really
plentiful,
a
aren't they?
two-headed monster. I mean, we got the stadium to deal with, and separate from that is the general fund. And general fund problem is that we've cut almost $100 million in the last 6 years, if you can believe that. What was a $300 million budget is down to $200 million, about a little south of that, about $192. The answer on how we deal with the challenges going forward is that I don't think that we can continue to do what we're required to do by Ohio law at much less than the 192 we're going to be at next year. It's been an incredible challenge. We laid off over 1,000 people, but I'm convinced we can make it. But we're about reaching the bottom. I'm expecting this economy is showing some signs of improvement, but we right-sized our government, so we're structurally balanced. Unlike what you see at the city of Cincinnati, they're using one-time fixes every year, which means the structure is still broken. They're spending more than they're bringing in every year. That's not the case for the county. So we're positioned well, but it's been tough to get there. The second head of this monster is the stadium fund, and that needs a $7 million fix this year. That deficit is $20 million next year. That really is the biggest challenge we face as a county.
Well, I find it interesting. Of course, the Democrats control the city, and the Republicans still control the county commission. I tell you right now, Greg, I just don't get, Greg Hartman, I just do not get and understand the concept of people that don't want to go ahead and just solve the problems. And I'm like you, I'm a conservative, anti-tax kind of person, and I know that promise, about, hey, we did that rollback, that was a promise and all that. But I'm telling you right now, I don't know, when are you going to reach the point, and I know you were the one that had the guts enough to at least start discussing this, when do you reach the point to where that 0.5% sales tax is got to happen? Or are you hoping that there's a turnaround in the economy to the extent that your revenues will make that not have to happen, or is that going to have to happen anyway?
The turnaround in the economy cannot be enough to fix the stadium fund. It needs that big of a number to address. It was basically when the stadiums were built, the 0.5 cent sales tax was off by about 100%. I mean, so we've got to fill that revenue gap somehow. And I've tried to be honest with the public about what that means. And
good.
I propose that the fund is not generating enough money to pay the rollback that was promised. That's about $18 million a year. I didn't like to do that. I mean, I'd like low taxes as much as anybody else, but I'm also concerned about us staying fiscally solvent. That's what's really at stake here. You can't just say we're not going to deal with this problem, and because the alternative is not paying our bills and making good on our obligations. So we've got a $7 million deficit this year. The question is, how are we going to plug that? And what you said about a sales tax, I mean, I think that's a discussion that we should have in public. I mean, it's either the property tax rollback, which the fund's not generating enough money to pay. If you keep that in place, you got to talk about something like a sales tax. There's really not any other options. And that's really where we are in this stadium fund. It's been a slow-speed crash for a number of years since I've been on the county commission. I've seen it coming, and, we're really there.
I'm not saying that every local government, every board of education is ran frugally. I know Kenton County is because my buddy Carl Wicklund is on it. I know the county commission is because I know you are looking out for the taxpayers. But, if there's one thing that I can understand is local taxation for local needs. There is such a huge difference between that and even sending money to Columbus or sending our money to Washington where it gets lost. I mean, local taxes for local needs is a totally different ballgame. Now, you still have to be fiscally responsible. You don't want to be, wasting the money. But if you aren't wasting any more money, and there's no other way, that 0.5% sales tax, the way I look at it, is first of all, it's pretty painless. And in addition to that, it's paid for by the whole surrounding area, which, of course, uses the stadium. I mean, come on, it's the stadium. But it's just a shame. That Wall Street Journal article that they had about that stadium, which basically showed Hamilton County just got hosed like no other place in America. It's just a shame, but you got to deal with it. What about Mike Brown and the Bengals? Are the Bengals at the table still, or are they still like, well, it's your problem, deal with it, or are they willing to do some more things?
No, they are, and I'm not going to support any solution that does not include meaningful participation by the teams. And so the Bengals and the Reds, are going to contribute to this solution, but they're not going to pay at all. I mean, they're not required to. It's I think that it's a time where we just have got to be honest with the public, and we've got to do the right thing. We can't be rigid and ideological about this. We've got to fix this, and the alternative is bankruptcy. And I hesitate to even say that word, but That's not
going on
responsible.
across America.
That's not making good on our obligations, and I would never support anything that tries to walk away from those obligations. A lot of the talk about these leases, the leases were generous. A lot was given to keep the Bengals in Cincinnati. But the biggest problem in this fund was that it was built, these stadiums, $1 billion, $1 billion of stadiums, $1 billion of finance costs, $2 billion of bonds issued on assumptions of 3% sales tax growth per year in 1996. That never happened. The first 10 years was about 1% and then negative after that. That means that, when you build a whole model around that kind of revenue coming in at 3% growth that never produced that puts the model under, that puts this whole stadium fund underwater. And if you could see this graph, this thing goes negative into the hundreds of millions of dollars 10 years down the road if it's not dealt with. So
wow,
we're really reaching that time where we've got to deal with it. And it's right on the heels of having to deal with our general fund. I mean, that was one disagreement we had on the county commission yesterday. Commissioner Portune, was not ready to vote on the general fund. And my point was, this is not going to get any better from the general fund. We've got to take a $15 million cut for next year. And we've got big job to do for the rest of the year to balance the stadium fund. So we've got to get on with it.
Wow. Well, I want to tell you something. You keep up the good work, Greg Hartman, and I think the city of Cincinnati is headed to bankruptcy faster than you guys.
Yeah, I mean, the trying to kick the can down the road just ultimately results in more pain later. And it's amazing for me to see these different governments that, well, it's not amazing to me. I shouldn't say that. Politicians want the easy way out. They don't want to make tough decisions. Government and politicians have got to be forced against the wall to make tough decisions, and that's disappointing because that's not good for all of us. That's not good for the economy that we're in. The government is afraid to make tough decisions, and you're right. I mean, there are municipalities all across this country that are facing bankruptcy because they have not gotten their budgets into structural balance like we have in the county.
Yeah. Thank you, Greg Hartman. Don't be a stranger. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Good being with you.
All right, Greg Hartman. There's an example, Monzel and Hartman, there's an example of, good, solid public servants. They're rare, few and far between. And by the way, the city of Cincinnati's no doubt headed to bankruptcy. And you got a guy like Mallory. You know what his way of thinking is? We'll just keep doing what we're doing. And the federal government will bail us out. Obama got reelected. They'll bail us out or something. That's the way they think. Ladies and gentlemen, the American jury, our only Led Zeppelin song that's not a Led Zeppelin song. They kicked off their tour, I think in New York, their 50th anniversary tour. So we got to play a Stones song. This is the Rolling Stones. Get Off My Cloud on Class X Radio.
Well, welcome back, and I'll tell you what, the Bulldog's busy being the Bulldog. He's got to be an attorney here for a little while, so we're going to cover some traffic as you're heading out this morning. Madison Road at Grandin, there's an accident there, and Kindred Avenue, just right around West Mitchell Avenue, there's an accident there as well. So the rest of the traffic looks like it's looking a lot better out there for you this morning. So what do you think there, Bulldog?
I got to ask you this. If somebody went like this with 2, would that not be 2 minutes?
Well,
Garrett goes
it
2 minutes. Tommy Boy goes. I said, "What time?" He goes 2
20 seconds. Yeah. I give you the 2 in the rock.
Oh,
the 2 in the rock.
God, the 2 in the rock.
That's okay. You had to cover some things.
No, I could have not taken the freaking call. Jeez.
Well, that's okay. We got
Let's
traffic
call him
covered.
on the air.
We got traffic covered.
See what?
No.
We're good.
Well, I can tell you right now, my forecast. It's supposed to clear up a little bit. Is it cleared up? Yeah, we don't have any windows in here, do we?
Yeah, I can see through one. It's bright.
Is it sunny?
Clear? Is it really?
Good. Well, I want to tell you something, folks. I went over and shot a promo, or did a promo with Garrett at the last break, and the promo was Hamilton County can make their budget. Can the United States government? No, of course not. It is beyond any rational comprehension how people like Barack Obama, Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi, and on and on and on, that they can't comprehend, or they refuse to comprehend, the idea of how a tax increase affects economics and business and jobs, and how the failure to stop the spending, just the devastating effect of it. I mean, It's really puzzling. I mean, how can they just keep going like 16.8 trillion and we're just going to keep racking up another trillion? And it's like, well, it's okay. That's all right. It's okay. Everything's okay. And it's either evil because the devastating effect to our country is they're destroying it, or it's just completely nincompoop, that's disconnect with reality. But it doesn't matter. Either way it goes. And, you got Chris Monzel and Greg Hartman in Hamilton County struggling to do this, but they're making the tough decisions. They got to make the decisions. They don't get the print money. But meanwhile, in Washington, there's just and I read yesterday, or maybe it was Sunday, in the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, of the volume of lobbyists that are descending down upon Washington to protect their turf, which goes on and on and on and on. I mean, like, for example, can you imagine those that are lobbying against removing the home mortgage deduction? Are you kidding me? Bankers, realtors, look at that impact. But again, if we just did it the right way. I mean, I have never heard. That's what's. Boehner got asked that question. He says, "Well, if we had a piece of white paper, we could start all over. We could, but we can't." Really? That's all. That's all Boehner's excuse was. But I have never heard any of the people that don't do anything about this to answer the freaking question, which is this: why do you oppose, and why do you not support, and why do you not work for a flat income tax and a flat sales tax, what they call the fair tax, combination of which, based on what we know is gross domestic product in this country and the income in this country, that the rate that we would need for both of those is readily discernible, and we eliminate it all. You eliminate that tax code. The enforcement is easier. The compliance is easier. The cost to do business is easier. And by the way, while you're doing it, as part of that game, if it helps, you could even have a corporate tax too that's smaller, not 25%, 30%. Hey, how about 10%? But we know what those numbers are, so it's easy just to take a number. Now, why in the hell cannot every single congressman, the president, and the Senate do? How can they oppose? How can anybody say that's a bad thing? What is bad about that? I've never heard anybody answer that question. What is bad about that? I think the only thing I might have heard about it is, well, it's not fair because rich people are only going to pay the same amount per. Well, no. If I make $100,000, I'm just using this example. If I make $100,000 a year and it's 10%, I'm going to pay $10,000. Somebody who makes $50,000 pay $5,000. So guess what? The rich pay more because they make more. How can it be more fair than that? All right, ladies and gentlemen, American Jury, we've had a great show. We'll be back tomorrow with a great show. We'll be back picking songs from the Spry collection. Every dog has their day. Hope today is yours on Class X Radio.